On yesterday's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, I talked about red herrings for a really short period of time, and I said that I would follow up on that. So today, I'm going to follow up on that. So stick around. I'm John Paulus. Thanks for listening. Let me start with definitions first. If you don't know what a red herring is, it's a clue or a story or an element of a story that is misleading. It can be purposefully misleading. Say, for example, if you're a mystery writer and you purposefully write misleading trails so that readers are thrown off the scent. And notice I used the phrase thrown off the scent. That comes from dogs tracking things with scents. Scents, and well, they have scents too, but that's a different story. Okay, so what is the etymology of red herring? It is hard to say, but it seems like there's been a little bit of a mix-up, which was corrected 15 years ago or so. So, well, first of all, let me just say, there's no such thing as a red herring in the wild, in nature. Herring look like, fish, silver, yellow parts. You'd say that this is a fish. Just search for herring, you'll see it's a fish. Now, you could look at the thumbnail, which I did the outline of it in red, but that's the outline of a herring. Just imagine that it's silver, and there's a yellowish racing stripe or detail or two. So that's a herring. Red herring do exist, but they're basically processed herring. So in order to kipper a herring, that's another word that you don't see often other than herring, you salt it or pickle it, and then you smoke it. The part of the herring that's on the inside of the herring turns red, and then you have a red herring. So there is a red herring. It's just it's a pickled smoked herring or salted smoked herring. So what's the story with why does it have to do with being thrown off the scent or the trail, a false clue, misleading information, misleading story, etc.? Well, it seems like, I hope I get this right, it's very complex. I've read 3 or 4 accounts of it based on an article that was written about 15 years ago. And the Oxford English Dictionary's etymology of it. And to me, it seems like the herring was used in training horses to follow hounds in fox hunting contexts. And so basically you needed something that the hounds are going to go after so that you could train the horses to follow the hounds as opposed to just do, horse stuff. Well, I want to make it clear that the red herring was a kipper, was a substitute for a dead fox or even a cat that was used as. This is all just very brutal stuff. So we'll stop there. Okay. So that's the idea. Now, in the current use, contemporary use of red herring, the first use seems to be in 1807 by a journalist who was chiding other journalists for thinking that Napoleon had been defeated. I'm not sure which battle this is. And that those reports were a red herring. And that the events of a Saturday in 1807 showed that, in fact, that was a red herring. I don't know what the events were. I'm just reporting briefly what I found out. So that's the first use of red herring as a misleading story or fact, or something that's thrown people off the trail of what is the truth. How do you feel about smoked fish? Let me know in the comments, and let me know if you have them for breakfast, as a lot of parts of the English-speaking world do have that. In the U.S., where I am, not a lot of kippers for breakfast or smoked herring for breakfast on an average day, except I understand there are certain parts of the country where they're regular for breakfast. So if you are in that part of the country or in that community or a cultural group in the U.S. where you have smoked kippers for breakfast on a regular basis, let me know. I'd be interested to know. Okay. So I'm wondering what the Life's Potluck Buffet card deck has to say about the idea of a red herring in our work life, that is. And that could be anything that misleads us into thinking something that is not true, or is puts us on the wrong track, or just misguides us. And so let me ask the cards for some help with this, and let's see what they have to say, and we'll take it from there. Okay. On the bottom of the deck, I have card 35, Actions Speak, which was yesterday's card. And as always, I'll give it 3 casual shuffles. One day, someone else is going to use casual shuffle to refer to what I am doing right now, which is, grabbing the few cards front and back with the edges, with my left hand while I hold the pack in the right hand, and kind of moving them to the front and kind of doing that 3 times, shuffling it casually. And then I'm going to do a formal shuffle, which is, what you probably imagine when you hear the word shuffle in regard to cards. Okay. Now then I look for a gap. Oh, well, this one's an interesting one because there's just one card here sticking out. And let's see what the card deck says about red herrings. All right. It's card 48. Find out how you act when things go awry. Oh, well, wow. That was, boy, that recalibration I did the other day really worked. I mean, the cards have been on point in ways that, I am, as always, shocked by. I shouldn't be, though. So, card 48 is find out how you act when things go awry. Think back to when you've done something in an emergency situation, whatever the nature or level of the emergency. So it doesn't need to be like a super emergency. It just needs to be somewhat of an emergency. Tell or write out the story. In retrospect, why did you act as you did? And what does this action say about your priorities? So that's really good. I think the cards are asking us to think about, and this is a really good thing to think about, how, when there is a red herring, when there's a piece of information that is misleading and misguiding, and maybe we go down that trail, maybe we follow its path. By the way, in the original story of the red herring, the original version of the red herring, it's a bit of a red herring itself, because it doesn't misguide the dogs and therefore the horses that are following the dogs. It actually guides them down the path they're supposed to be going. So that's interesting too. So the red herring itself is a red herring. Ponder that one. So that was like when I asked the rock what the rock was cooking. And then, that's what he asks the other people. Can they smell, or if you smell what the rock is cooking? So I kind of reversed that. That was like the red herring. Yeah. So when you think of something that is a red herring or has been a red herring in your work life, where you thought, oh, that's the direction I need to go, or, oh, there's the way to solve this problem, or, oh, that's the answer, and it turned out to be not the answer. Instead of worrying about how could I have corrected that or done something different, that's not what we want to do there. What we want to do is think about how we reacted and how next time we will react. Because planning for that next time when things go awry, or when there's a red herring, understanding how you're going to act in that case will tell you a lot about what you were hoping for, what your priorities were. And we don't need to worry about it being a case of, oh, why did I get fooled by that? Because that just ends up with us kind of taking it out on ourselves, and that's not the way we want to go. That's not the path. That's not the trail. That would be a real red herring.